The Fallout TV show has released another season. Hmm, you again.
You again.
While this is anecdotal, I haven't seen nearly as much fanfare about this season as the last one. With the first season, I was bombarded across all platforms by people raving about this TV show, but I saw relatively little Fallout Mania this time around. Thus, I was curious to see how the final product panned out. On Rotten Tomatoes, the second season has an outstanding 96% across the board from critics and general audiences. Given these scores are even higher than the first season, it would seem like this season is another raging success. However, looking up reviews on YouTube tells a somewhat mixed story. There are some raving about the season, but others have a much more negative tone. At least from the titles, that is. I have yet to watch one of these reviews. I tend to like going in with my own untainted perspective. All of this is to say, I really didn't know what I was going to get with this season of the Fallout TV show. It is no secret that I did not like the first season of the TV show. I felt it was a betrayal of much of what the series was trying to be, and misunderstood the core of the series. Though I still feel this way about the first season, I didn't want to bring this baggage into my review. I want, as hard as this may be, to review the second season as its own package, and I will try to keep my feelings about the first season from obscuring the potential of the second. Granted, this does not change the fact that the second season rests on a foundation that I can only call precarious. If you wish to know why I feel that way, I suggest you watch my first video on the prior season of the Fallout TV show. Though it has aged like milk on a video editing level and audio quality level, it not only gives context to the events of the second season, but also details how I'm coming into this next iteration of the story. Both of these factors are important for what I am about to discuss. My hope for this season was that it could fix what came before and steer this massive Fallout ship in the right direction. Believe me when I say that I came into this wanting to like it. More than anything, I want to see the franchise I love succeed, and tearing it down does not bring me any pleasure. It's akin to scolding your drug-addicted child. At the end of the day, I still love you, Fallout. You're just too hopped up on that Bethesda Galaxy gas and Todd Howard lean. You've fallen off the track. Lost your way ever since the cocaine epidemic of 2018, but we can bring you back, my friend. Maybe. If anyone should accuse me of going into this wanting to hate it, remember this fact. Criticism brings me no joy, but it is absolutely necessary, and should I see something in need of criticizing, I will not hesitate to do so. I come here to discuss ideas, not to tear down and annihilate. Call me Bob the Builder, the way I be constructing conversation, gamers. With that, I offer one last piece of preamble to any newcomers. My perspective on the Fallout TV show is undoubtedly not that of the average person's. I have played every single Fallout game. Yes, even those ones. Hey you, over there. Yeah, you. Mm-hmm. Yep. I have only one thing to say to you, Fallout Brotherhood of Steel. I hate you. Besides Fallout Brotherhood of Steel and Fallout 76 circa 2018, I think every single one of these games does something well. There is something to enjoy in all of them, and I have countless hours on this series as a whole. If there were a Star Wars style title screen for my existence, the hours played of Fallout would be astronomical. Furthermore, if you put up a picture of Fallout New Vegas in front of my dead body, suffice it to say, the doctors would be able to count 207 bones in my corpse. My knowledge on this series is immense, and I have damn near written dissertations on this series of games. I come from a unique perspective that will play a decisive role in how I view this latest iteration of the Fallout series. Furthermore, I will be using this knowledge to judge this show as an extension of the games and as its own separate entity. If the Fallout TV show messes up the characterization of a legacy faction, I will discuss that as a criticism. The Fallout TV show is interesting because it is situated as a canon addition to the series of games it is based off of. Unlike, say, Sonic or the Mario movies, which are in their own separate universe from the games, the universe of the Fallout games and the show are one entity. If one is to position their product as part of the canon, then it is only fair to criticize it within that context. To suggest otherwise veers dangerously into the territory of copium. This is how I went into the second season of the Fallout TV show, and this is how I shall approach reviewing it. I want to approach it as its own product and within the context of being a Fallout installment. With this approach, I hope to answer two questions. Is the second season of the TV show an improvement over the first, and is it actually good? Without further ado, let us begin. I find it only right to start the same way I did with my last video on the Fallout TV show, with the ending surprise. From this point on, there will be spoilers, of course. Be warned. So, what is the big surprise this time? Last time, it was these rich, maniacal, evil billionaires sitting at this shadowy conference table devising a plan to nuke the very society they benefited most from. Wait, what? That doesn't make any sense. That has to be a mistake on my part. Nope, that's actually what happens. Okay, well, let's see how the twist of this season recontextualizes that scene, and maybe improves it.
I'm sorry, who are you?
The leaders of the most powerful corporations will be gathering here. And when they do, you tell them the only way to guarantee results is
By dropping the bomb ourselves.
No. 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 Ah! How many times, man? How many times do I have to tell you this, old man? Let go already. Yeah, the twist is that the big bad is and always has been the Enclave. Again, for the third time, everything is the Enclave now. And I mean everything. The Enclave has their fingers all over this universe now. Barb stating that she wanted to nuke the world to guarantee results was actually the Enclave the whole time. Who is the big player at the table who messes up Mr. House's calculations about the end of the world? The Enclave. Who creates the death clause? The Enclave. Hank McClane? Part of the Enclave. The Vault's subservient to the Enclave and their plans, which Stephanie puts into Phase 2 at the end of this season. Hell, the Enclave even has their own version of a Pip-Boy now, and might I add, it does look kinda drippy. I gotta respect the design. The Enclave is at the center of everything in the second season. It's even shown at the end of the series that their research center has been eavesdropping on every communication across the wasteland.
This is Hank McClane, reporting for duty, sir. Nobody in Vault Tech knows I'm here.
This is Norm McClane from Vault 33. Dad, if you can hear me, why didn't you tell us the truth?
They know everything. Since they are now the central antagonists of the series, the question that has to be asked is simple. What do they want? What is the motivation of our villains? Well, we don't really know at this point what their end goal is, or what their supposed Phase 2 of the plan will involve. However, everything the Enclave has done so far is in service of eliminating factionalism. Yeah, I mean like the entire concept of factions and just like general natural human division. Now, you might be thinking, well, isn't that impossible? And yes, you would be correct. Factionalism, division, differences in thinking are all inherent to humanity. We are not all alike to one another, and thus are almost guaranteed to run into conflicts once in a while. People have a tendency to form groups with like-minded individuals, which can lead to an us versus them dynamic. Tribalism is, for better and for worse, a core human trait. To defeat factionalism, you would have to change humanity itself. In a sense, you'd have to take the human out of humanity. In my first video, I bring this up and state that
unless Vault-Tec can somehow change human nature, friction and conflict will always be the case,
And just because Vault-Tec has a monopoly on everything doesn't mean war will be eradicated. It almost seems like the writers heard that and thought, hey, why don't we create a device that breaks human nature? In Season 2, we see that Hank and Mr. House experiment with this black box called the Brain-Computer Interface Chip. What this does is turn any human into an automaton, subject to the whims of whoever is controlling them. We see Robert House using this device to make a random dude murder one of his friends and harm the other. Robert Edwin House then accidentally murders the mind-controlled man. Don't worry, I will circle back to this scene once I discuss House later. We also see Hank throughout the season creating an entire office of mind-controlled individuals. Hank's version of the device is based on the personality of an amiable person. This person, in particular, who looks, great. Throughout the season, we see that Diane Welch, the decapitated head, is a well-meaning congressman trying to fight lobbying interests in Congress. Naturally, the Enclave decapitates her, sticks her in this facility, makes her wait in agony for 200 years, and then downloads her personality into random wastelanders through this black box device. Man, I wonder who the bad guys are. If you are confused, this head is actually alive. Lucy kills her at the end of the season. The reason the Enclave picked her is that she makes the perfect individual for a well-functioning society, according to Hank at least.
ISTP on the old Myers-Briggs, which is still the gold standard for personnel.
Her amiable personality deters any aggression in a mind-controlled individual. Furthermore, the black box erases a person's memories. So if, for example, they are a member of Caesar's Legion, or the NCR, the individual will lose all attachment to their original faction. Thus, a member of the NCR and Legion could be friends once mind-controlled. In effect, the writers took the idea of removing the human out of humanity to the max. Now, theoretically, the Enclave could make all of humanity subservient to them using these devices, effectively eradicating competition and seizing a monopoly on the wasteland. With these devices, the Enclave can finally beat factionalism and end war for good. Okay, so there's a lot wrong here. First and foremost, the Enclave is dead at this point. Play the Pirates in the Caribbean meme, please.
You're supposed to be dead!
Am I not?
Last time we saw them, they were not doing too hot. They've decisively lost every single engagement they've ever been in. And Fallout New Vegas shows us how utterly broken they are as a faction. The Remnants are all that are left of the Enclave in that game. The Remnants are 4 people. That's all that is left. They integrated into other societies across the wasteland because they had nowhere else to go. The Enclave's oil rig was nuked in Fallout 2, and they were hunted for decades afterwards by the NCR and the Brotherhood. For all intents and purposes, the Enclave lost. But in this TV show, they are apparently stronger than ever. They have a base with hundreds of people operating out in the wide open. There's a disconnect here between how the games portray the Enclave and how the TV show does. This line in the first season irks me in particular.
Our mission comes from the highest clerics in the Commonwealth. It is believed that a denizen of the Enclave has escaped.
This line doesn't make it seem like the Enclave has returned, or that it was a surprise.
The Enclave's real.
No, it's almost as if they never left. In the games, this simply is not true. It is not impossible for the Enclave remnants to reform the Order, especially in the absence of a centralized power structure like the NCR. However, you have to actually detail that resurgence in some capacity. What you cannot do is give the Enclave the equivalent of somehow Palpatine returned.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Somehow the Enclave returned, or rather, somehow the Enclave never left. This is a paradigm shift that the Wasteland has never seen, and it isn't given any light. Additionally, it does not make sense. Sure, the NCR is gone, or, isn't? I don't know at this point. Either way, the NCR is not the power it once was, but the Brotherhood remains stronger than ever. The Brotherhood is one of the primary antagonists of the Enclave, and would not hesitate to annihilate them off the fucking earth. To hear the High Elder speak so nonchalantly about the Enclave and allow them to operate for over a decade in the wide open is beyond mind-boggling. We also know the Brotherhood tracks power signals across the Wasteland.
Oh, fuck yeah! Power signatures in a complex nearby. Looks like unauthorized automated activity.
And has access to military bases such as the Pentagon. There is no hiding a massive outpost like we see in the show. If the Enclave came back, the Brotherhood would be there. In all, this shift to the Enclave is frustrating to anyone engrossed in the lore, and does not mesh well with the games at all, especially New Vegas, which this TV show is meant to be a continuation of. Moreover, the entire Enclave recontextualization does nothing to fix the boardroom scene from the first season. I still do not understand why these billionaires would go along with Barb's, or rather, the Enclave's plans. Why do they want to nuke the world? I hinted at this earlier, but they are the ones who actively benefit from the way society currently is. They are billionaires. Power is at their fingertips. They can do anything, go anywhere they want. Why do they want to burn it all down? You could argue that they are at risk of being killed by the Great War and the bombs, but that threat rings a little hollow when they themselves are causing the world to end. Vault-Tec has the diode, the cold fusion which can solve the entire energy crisis right then and there, yet they still want to destroy the world. Tell me, billionaires, how much is your money worth when everyone is burning? Money only has value because we believe it does. The Wasteland holds no such beliefs. Unless you happen to have 1 billion bottle caps, that is. There's a lot of earning potential in the end of the world. Yup, I hear there's huge profits when you nuke the means of production and the people who work for you. Genius. The Enclave's plan rests on an alliance between the billionaire elites and the Enclave's shadowy cabal within the US government. This alliance is wholly unbelievable when the Enclave's argument boils down to, would you like to kill everyone, Lamau? No rational human being in the billionaire's position would take that offer. Even if these billionaires truly believed that nuking the world was somehow in humanity's best interests, I highly doubt that they would be willing to give up their freedom to sit in a vault and die. Thus, this entire scene is still utter dogshit. The Enclave's recontextualization also doesn't fix the thematic issue with the boardroom scene. By dropping the bombs ourselves as a line destroys the main thematic through line of the series. War Never Changes is a rumination on the fact that no matter the different weapons, ideas, people, etc., war is always destructive. Fallout is a series that asks the player to think about their violence. What does it mean? Why does it happen? Why do you do the things you do? For a better tomorrow? Because it's funny to murder people? Are we condemned to end this way? If war never changes, then men must. We must be better than this. Easier said than done. The Wasteland is a testament to humanity's rigidity. Despite being surrounded by the failures, by the lessons of a bygone era scorched into the very earth, we still fight each other. Despite that depressing thought, Fallout isn't overly bleak. Some learn, albeit perhaps too late. The failure of humanity in 2077 wasn't caused by one thing, one group, one ideology, one country. No, it was, for lack of a better term, a group effort. Humanity failed because we could not be better. The issue with the Enclave being the ones to drop the bombs, as the TV show heavily implies did happen, is that it breaks the conception of 2077. 2077 wasn't humanity's failure. No, it was a shadowy cabal of a few people pulling the strings to make us kill each other. We don't have to internally reflect on our own nature, but point the finger to the evil cabal. What was a rumination on humanity's violence becomes nothing. Actually, no, it becomes every single Saturday cartoon villain who just wants to destroy the world for incomprehensible reasons. Funny how one line can do so much damage to the series. It doesn't matter who you pick, Vault-Tec, the billionaires, the Enclave. As soon as you point the finger to one group, you've lost the plot. The writers of this TV show just can't seem to understand that. The TV show seems to have this fascination with the bombs. Who dropped them? Was it the Chinese? Was it Vault-Tec? Was it the billionaire class? The funny thing is that it never mattered to the games. Fallout 1 gives a clear answer to who dropped the bombs. People did. That was it. In one of the most brilliant intro cutscenes in gaming, Fallout 1 underscores the why of the bombs through a TV and one pan out to a surrounding city. Resources were trifling, greed was immense. We fought because of it, kaboom. It was that simple. Fallout 2 gives us more about the pre-war because the Chosen One, the protagonist of that game, is dealing with the pre-war Enclave for the first time. We gain the information that China was on the back foot, and out of desperation, launched the nukes first. Fallout New Vegas could care less about who dropped the bombs. Read my lips. It does not matter. None of this does. To complicate the bombs, to assign blame, to do all of this intrigue is to miss the point. When adapting a series, you cannot do that. You cannot just break the core of a series. The post-nuclear world moved on from the bombs. At least the West Coast did. I think it's time that the TV show did as well. Also, can we move on from these 200-year-old fossils? How many of these fuckers are there at this point? Moldaver, Stephanie, the entirety of Vault 31, Hank, Wilczek, just let it go, old man. They failed. It's over. Fallout was never solely about them. It was about what came after. The fallout, if you will. If I wanted to see an older generation desperately attempting to steer the reins of today, I'd watch Congress all day. Tell me this, if the bygone generation is at the helm of everything, then what even is the point of playing the games? I guess Robert House and the Sole Survivor aren't really that unique for being 200-year-old fossils out in the wasteland. Cryo-freeze technology is a dime a dozen apparently. I don't know why Vault 111 even needed to experiment with it, because the technology seems to work perfectly everywhere in this show. Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent. To summarize, I think this hyper-focus on the past misses the point of the games, breaks long-standing themes of the series, and in the case of Cryo-freeze, is logically inconsistent with what the games have shown us. For all this damage done, what do we get? Well, now we know that the Enclave, alongside Vault-Tec, actively wanted the bombs to drop to annihilate the competition. I have already discussed how this makes no sense for the billionaires and Vault-Tec, but what about the Enclave itself? Does it make any sense? Short answer, no. Long answer, fuck no. A W analysis if I do say so myself. Okay, fine, I'll give an actual long answer. The Enclave is the pre-war American government, or at least a part of the pre-war American government that goes as high as the President of the United States. Would a government want to nuke its own people? Obviously not. Governments derive their power from the people, and I do not mean that in the democratic sense. You need people to produce, to work, to fight, to run the government. People are everything. Part of the reason China, India, and the United States are some of the most powerful nations on Earth is because they are so populous. Eradicating 99% of your own population alongside all of your infrastructure does nothing to benefit your own power. If you want to be a realist, IR, international relations, is all about relative power. Destroying one's own ability to function as a nation does not further that drive for power. One cannot rule over bones, nor would one want to. According to the show, the United States is militarily dominant over the Chinese. After Cooper's intervention, they possess an item that can solve the resource wars, and they hold absolute hegemony over the entire Western Hemisphere. The United States is completely dominant globally in a way that we don't even see in our own reality. Sure, there's a lot of societal tension within America, but the US government reigns supreme. Why would you want to tear all of that down so you can spend centuries building it all back with your mind controlled slaves? Mind you, billions die because of the bombs. According to the TV show, the largest city in the NCR, Shady Sands, had a population of around 35,000 people. Hank nukes that city to oblivion in 2277 and desolates the NCR as a nation. How many people are left for you to enslave? We've seen how many vaults are in disarray at this point. Civilization on the West Coast looks like it's back to the Stone Ages. How many are left? Tens of thousands? Hundreds of thousands, maybe? Assuming the Enclave can enslave them all, which they can't, that's an astronomical amount of time to rebuild the entirety of America. Not to mention all the creatures the Enclave would face, the resistance from the Brotherhood and other factions. See, this is the problem with making the bombs a calculated move rather than a move of desperation. The writers would have to make nuclear Armageddon somehow desirable, but it just doesn't make sense. In the games, the Enclave isn't like this. The Enclave of Fallout 2 deemed nuclear war inevitable because there wasn't a device capable of solving everything like there is in the TV show. And as much as my history brain hates to say this, it was essentially inevitable. The Enclave was a reaction to this reality. If the world was to end, then why not be at the forefront of a new humanity? In the games, the Enclave is responding to an inevitability. In the show, the Enclave is purposely causing an inevitable apocalypse. It is such a brain-dead change that it almost destroys my brain. So no, it does not make sense for the Enclave to nuke 99% of the American population. In fact, it makes about as much sense as the billionaires nuking everyone, like I assumed last season. I kind of understand that this was the point of the Enclave. It has been since Fallout 2. Their ideology is inherently flawed and illogical, similar to their real-life fascistic counterparts. However, because the logic of the TV show is this utterly stupid, this completely flawed, this easily picked apart, it veers away from realism and enters the realm of farce. I simply cannot take it seriously when a 10-year-old, nay, a 5-year-old would be able to pick apart this nonsense. This is, additionally, the third time in a row that the Enclave has had a ridiculously evil motivation. A big sticking point in both my Fallout 2 and 3 reviews was just how stupid the Enclave's goals were. If you were going to bring them back for the 5th time, do something different. How about giving them a morally gray motivation this time around? That's the other issue I have with the Enclave here. Their end goal could have been something more than just kill everyone and take over, as it has been for the past 30 years at this point. It could have gone beyond the good versus evil binary. The brain-computer chip reminds me of the Master in a way. If war never changes, then men must. Both the Enclave and the Master of Fallout 1 took that literally. In the Master's case, he sought to evolve man past the necessity for war. One unity, one vision, one race. The super mutant. The Enclave wants to use this brain-computer chip to change men into machines. Both of these processes destroy the individual, take their memories, and produce a harmonious unity. It's similar, but the latter is just so much dumber. The Master works because I understand him. I know why the man Richard Gray saw his unity as humanity's salvation. In his eyes, all 4 of them, the horrible means justified the utopian end. He was flawed, mistaken, and very, very human. The Enclave of the TV show is just evil. Unlike super mutants who can display extensive free will, the brain-computer chip makes slaves incapable of resisting.
You're gonna walk right back out of here and lead us to my father. Now.
Unfortunately, I don't have permission.
Mutants follow the Master because they believe in him and his vision. Marcus in Fallout 2 underscores this well. The office workers of the TV show follow the Enclave because that's all they can do. One is devotion, the other is slavery. As such, I find the Unity far more interesting than the brain-computer chip. I almost find it insulting how hard the TV show attempts to paint the brain-computer chip in a positive light. Hank spends so much time showing the virtues of his slave society, detailing his vision to Lucy. In theory, I can appreciate this. All I've wanted since the first season was to understand Hank McClane. I understand the Master, the Legion, it's why they're great antagonists. I thought this could be the chance with Hank, but it just wasn't. One would need to have an immensely skewed sense of morality to even consider Hank's dystopian vision a good thing.
Just give me a chance. I think you'll call what I've been doing redemptive.
You mean brainwashing those people?
You can call it brainwashing. It's a very sophisticated process, and we've been having
I don't
amazing
care.
results.
The cherry on top of all of this, Hank's vision still doesn't eradicate factionalism. What happens if the Enclave higher-ups have a disagreement? I'm assuming that not every person on Earth will have these chips. What if Hank disagrees with another Enclave agent? Sounds like factionalism and division to me. There were factions within the Nazi government. Fascism, no matter how intense, cannot eradicate division, no matter how hard it tries. The Enclave is no different. Hell, we even see examples of factionalism with Colonel Autumn and Eden in Fallout 3. You cannot outrun human nature, and thus the idea of solving factionalism as a motivation falls flat. And it's not like the characters who hold this motivation are really endearing either. Our two Enclave operators present this season are Hank McClane and Stephanie. Hank McClane is a mass-murdering, slave-capturing, evil shit who holds no remorse for his actions. In Season 2, we actually get to see how Hank nuked Shady Sands. After the bombs go off, there's this scene of Hank washing his hands, symbolic of the blood that's on them. I thought right here was the moment where Hank would display some remorse, something to show how heavy this weighs upon him. He quickly straightens up when Lucy asks him to read to her, and this side of Hank is never explored again. The rest of the season sees Hank testing the brain-computer chips, setting up his office, and trying to convince Lucy of its merits. Hank is left as a goofy, cartoony, pure evil character. There isn't anything for him. Yeah, he sees his actions as justified, but I can't believe he would. This is the problem with insane motivations. If I can't understand why a character in the universe would do the thing they do, then I'm left with nothing to grasp onto. I know why Eren Yeager kills 80% of humanity. I know why Anakin Skywalker turns to the dark side. I even know why Death in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish hunts down our feline protagonist. How can the personification of death be more sympathetic than Hank? How is that possible?
And I don't mean it metaphorically or rhetorically or poetically or theoretically or in any other fancy way.
I'm gay. Straight up.
This nigga's a homosexual.
I find Hank thoroughly uninteresting as a character. When he's not flipping around yo-yos and killing people for impossible goals, he just comes across as a cartoon. It's okay to have a character like that. Someone who's irredeemable or just evil to be evil. Going back to Puss in Boots, Jack Horner fills this archetype well. I really enjoy Jack Horner as a character in that film, but the key is self-awareness. The writers of Puss in Boots are aware of how unreasonable Horner is. They play on his motivation for jokes. That is how evil he is. They also don't spend a Brobdingnagian amount of time on Horner's goals. We know he's bad. We get it. Hank is on the same level of evil as Horner, yet the writers of the TV show don't seem to see it that way. We spend so much time on Hank's motivations.
And for what?
So we can watch a wholly unsympathetic character mouth out what amounts to useless yappage? It's pointless. Hank is pointless, and I was glad when he was finally written out of the story. It's a damn shame because Kyle MacLachlan is legitimately a fantastic actor. He also seems like such a chill dude from the Instagram reels I've seen of him.
Just found out I'm chopped, and also unk, so thank you.
No disrespect to my boy. This blame lies squarely on the writers. Hank McClane, you remain my least favorite character. I was hoping the second season could fix you, but alas. Almost as bad as Hank is Stephanie, who turns out to be Hank's pre-war wife. This character, frankly, blows ass. I cannot describe it any other way. Stephanie does not have that much of a role in the first season, as she's just another suspicious member of Vault 31. This season, she becomes the overseer of Vault 32, which we learned last season was killed off. As overseer, she treats everyone like complete shit. It is insufferable. It's almost like she's attempting an any percent speed run on how fast she can antagonize everyone. Basically, every scene with her includes a thinly veiled threat to someone or just a generally hostile tone. It's cartoonish how utterly unlikable she is. She treats Chet, the guy who's taking care of her baby, like dog shit for the entire season for no reason. Every time she speaks to him, it is condescending and filled with this seething hatred. She's constantly dismissive of him and threatens other people around him, which eventually causes Chet to grow concerned. She murders this dude, Woody, because he caught her in the Intervault area. Again, she did not have to do this. Woody probably would have dropped the whole ordeal after a while. However, Stephanie just had to pick the path of greatest resistance, and he exposes her in front of the entire vault. He uses two pieces of evidence to expose Stephanie: the murder of Woody and her Canadian driver's license. Stephanie, pre-war, was a citizen of Canada. We see a flashback of Stephanie and her mom running from a US internment camp. Her mom is shot and tells Stephanie,
"And you get south of that border and you cling to the highest branch you can find and you survive. If you have to hurt people, I won't judge you. Think of them as human beings. Think of them as Americans."
Stephanie then murders an innocent man and a border guard before entering the US. Naturally, she keeps her Canadian ID on her afterwards. Wait, what? Why? Why would you keep the thing that identifies you as a non-American? Isn't the goal to survive? If the Americans find out you're Canadian, they probably won't be happy. Beyond that, why in God's name would you keep it in the post-apocalypse? If anyone found that card, the entire experiment of the vault would be ruined. The residents would start asking some questions. Chet's exposal of Stephanie rests on her being a complete dumbass, which is not consistent with her seemingly cold, manipulative, calculated nature. Fabulous writing. Also, why would you willingly join the Enclave? She hates Americans and what they are doing in Canada, and she's going to join the organization responsible? I get the idea is that she wants to survive, and the Enclave provides the best opportunity to survive the coming bombs. However, helping the people who tortured you and killed your mother is beyond insane. And then why would you then, in the post-war, when the bombs have already gone off, continue to support the Enclave? Like, why? You've already survived. Your motivation is done with. Why would you help such, whatever. Stephanie ends up as an immensely unsympathetic character, driven by an insatiable desire to survive no matter what. She is a mass murderer, manipulative, treats everyone like dog shit, and is evidently a moron. I say she's a moron because how does keeping a Canadian ID and antagonizing everyone serve your aims, Stephanie? These are our Enclave duo. To say I find them uncompelling would be an understatement. If the goal was to make the Enclave as evil and incomprehensible as possible, then the writers achieved that in spades. In the context of the TV show, the Enclave serves as a terrible antagonist with nothing to chew on. Their goals can be picked apart like Big League Chew. Their characters are irredeemable monsters, and the entire faction is driven by stupidity. In the context of the greater Fallout series, the Enclave is utterly ruined. This faction was once an interesting dive into what made the pre-war government tick. Now they are an exhausted boogeyman, resurrected from the grave to be paraded around. If all you can come up with is, "They're bad, lol," then you do not deserve to bring the Enclave back. What complete buffoonery. I said this 2 years ago, but I will continue to say it, old man. Let go. I'm done with the Enclave. Period. Stories end. And as far as I'm concerned, the Enclaves ended in 2242. I'm done talking about them. Could spend the next 5 hours dissecting this nonsense, but I'm moving on. Oh wait, sorry, I forgot to mention this. This is a little after recording. The motivation of the Enclave in the TV show is to incorporate a enslaved population of random wastelanders into essentially the Enclave Empire, as far as I understand. So the issue with this is in the games, well, what is the Enclave's goal? It's to eradicate mutation. So this is completely contradicting their own goals. I would understand this maybe if the show covered the Enclave having a change of heart in the post-war. So like say from President Eden to where we see them in the TV show, it's explained why their ideology has changed. But now we see that the Enclave going back to 2077 was driving the bombs and building the black boxes, meaning that in 2077 they were creating the very thing they hated, mutation, and then they already had this plan for the black box before President Dick Richardson was even in charge. So the timeline here doesn't mesh with the games at all, because you have the Enclave directly contradicting their own ideology in 2077 compared to what it was in 2242 with Fallout 2. So yeah, that just is completely messes with the lore, and to me is indicative of how little effort was put into actually keeping the TV show lore consistent. Anyway, now we can move on from a fucking Enclave. The next faction I want to tackle is the Brotherhood of Steel, who are surprisingly not the primary focus of this season. With how season 1 ended, I assumed that the Brotherhood would be at the heart of the narrative, but they spent half the season absent. When we left the Brotherhood in season 1, they had just acquired the all-powerful cold fusion diode, seemingly destroyed the last remnants of the NCR, and were at the height of their power. The Brotherhood narrative of Season 2 surrounds this idea of a civil war between the Western chapters of the Order and the Commonwealth chapter. The season portrays the Brotherhood as being scattered and broken into several quote-unquote rival chapters, the characterization of rival being novel. However, I like this development. Unlike before, where chapters had ideological differences, such as the West cutting off lines in Fallout 3, but remained overall cooperative with one another, the TV show shifts the chapters into outright competitors. While I would have liked to see what specifically prompted this development, I appreciate it nonetheless. With the diode in hand and ample technology at their new base, including alien shit apparently, High Elder Quintus believes his chapter now holds the power to unify the Western chapters under his banner. Therefore, Quintus calls the Western chapters to his base and excludes the Commonwealth, which apparently breaks the chain of command. I guess the Commonwealth are now the top dogs of the Brotherhood apparatus. The chapters meet at this council and discuss unifying to keep the cold fusion diode under their control, and I have to mention how butt-fucking stupid the Brotherhood is this season. These guys are just meatheads to the nth degree. Most scenes with background character soldiers depict them as morons. These soldiers play with a live grenade like children, while the top dogs of their organization are discussing civil war. A few soldiers pull a car out of the base, not to scrap it for technology, but to simply blow it up. We get a scene of this guy shitting out in the open for no reason. I mean, these guys are boneheads. This extends to the leaders too. The Coronado Elder and the Grand Canyon Elder are painfully idiotic. It's to the point where I wonder how they became elders. Also, why the fuck do we have Caesar's Legion levels of misogyny in a Brotherhood of Steel chapter?
Where we come from, women don't get to talk.
Cunt.
Keep talking and I'll carve you one.
These guys aren't some backwards traditionalist cult. We see women in power all across the Brotherhood, dating back to the very first Fallout. Do we really need to make the Brotherhood look even more stupid in this show? The Brotherhood was an actual military force at one point. They were cool, badass, well organized, and there was a tangible pursuit of intellectual goals. Back in the day, the Brotherhood actually created technology as opposed to scavenging it. They were a, albeit flawed, beacon of light in a destroyed world.
Greetings. It's a fine day for learning. Can I help you? I record the knowledge of our ancestors for future generations. The only salvation this tortured planet and its people have. Without us, humanity is sure to perish. Without us, humanity is sure to perish.
You just like that they let you fuck robots.
That was one squire, and he was well within his rights.
Without us, humanity is sure to perish. Without us,
humanity is sure to perish.
The Brotherhood of the TV show are just another wasteland tribe, acting more similar to Caesar's legion or the 86 tribes it conquered. The only differences being the guns they carry are lasers and they have power armor. It's disappointing because the ideological depth of this organization has been so flanderized and flattened that it ceases to be interesting. In fact, this depiction ceases to even feel like the Brotherhood of Steel. It's akin to a beloved character breaking every single one of their characteristics for absolutely no reason. It is okay to change the Brotherhood, but when the change is this poor and this drastic, that's when problems start to arise. Remember, we saw a chapter of the Western Brotherhood in New Vegas, which takes place within 15 years of the TV show, and they acted nothing like their TV counterparts. A core aspect of the Brotherhood is that they do not change. They held a dogmatic loyalty to their beliefs. New Vegas was the culmination of the Brotherhood's static nature. They did not adapt, so they were naturally on their last legs. Most New Vegas endings lead to the destruction of the Brotherhood. To hit that point home, I see a reality where the Brotherhood does change in recognition of their failures. Hell, this actually is what happens in New Vegas. You can get the Brotherhood to ally with the NCR, something that would have been unthinkable a decade ago in lore. However, the writing has to cover that change in some capacity. Show me why the Brotherhood has changed, and why it was this specific change in particular. Otherwise, it feels jarring and unearned. Thus, due to the Brotherhood being morphed into a stupid version of itself, and the fact that it is so jarring, the TV show's portrayal of this faction remains dog water like the first season. Going back to the council meeting, the Brotherhood leaders are initially hesitant to join Quintus, citing the Commonwealth's immense power. Alone, each of the Western factions would be annihilated, and even unified under one banner, the odds are still quite even. Then, Quintus shows them a bunch of shiny fusion cores. They go, and are immediately on board. Well, that was easy. Next, we get a sparring match between two dudes in power armor. They are again shown to be meatheads. And then we cut to Maximus getting challenged to a death match by this hunk of a man. They fight, and eventually Maximus has to put him down. Apparently, fighting to the death is a common occurrence in the Brotherhood because no one cares that this spout turned into a death match. In fact, everyone is quite overjoyed at this display. This makes sense, though, because we see Brotherhood soldiers fight to death in Fallout. Wait, no, we never see that because it's, it's against their codex. The TV show is actually aware of this, too. They cite the codex.
The codex does say that violence against a fellow brother is forbidden.
Yet they chose to put this scene in that depicts the Brotherhood contradicting it completely. I get it, the codex can be interpreted, which is how they're even discussing a civil war in the first place. However, a brother murdering another brother from an allied chapter is not equivalent. It's barbaric and risks destroying the alliance these chapters just formed. And let me repeat, the Brotherhood is not Caesar's legion. They aren't LARPers or barbaric, but a well-functioning military. Much in the same way the Enclave or the NCR wouldn't hold death matches between their soldiers, neither would the Brotherhood. Just like I said with the first season, this is not the Brotherhood of Steel. After the hunk gets killed, a liaison from the Commonwealth barges in to see what all the Civil War fuss is about. I'm sorry, did that motherfucker just give a hell yeah nod to Maximus because he killed a fellow brother? I'm sorry, where did the real Brotherhood of Steel go? Who are these barbarians masquerading as Brotherhood members? In what universe is killing a fellow brother approved of? On a logistical level, Why would the Brotherhood want members killing each other? All that achieves is weeding out your own numbers. Come on already. This dude, whose name is Xander, and looks like the damn Giga Chad, throws Quintus's plans off. The elders begin to dissolve the alliance out of fear of the Commonwealth retaliation. The Yosemite elder states,
I'm not interested in fighting a rebellion, Quintus.
What? What do you mean you have no interest in fighting a rebellion? Isn't that why you joined Quintus in the first place? To fight a rebellion against the Commonwealth and gain a bunch of technology? Some of the dialogue is goofy to say the least. She leaves, and Maximus suggests killing Xander because that would solve exactly 0 of their issues. I get that Maximus has never been the brightest character, but he is not brain dead. He has a pulse. Anyone with a pulse and an IQ over 70 could tell you why killing someone from the Commonwealth right as your alliance is fracturing is a terrible idea. To some extent, I understand what the writers attempted to do here. Maximus is using the High Elder's ideology against him. If a cause is righteous, then in the end, it will succeed. Furthermore, the Brotherhood sanctions violence against their fellow members, so Maximus is taking that to its natural conclusion. Kill the opposition. However, it doesn't work because Quintus isn't contradicting his own ideology by having a strategy and not wanting to be eviscerated by the Commonwealth. What ends up happening is that Maximus just looks like an idiot. Again, he is not the brightest character, but Maximus is definitely smart enough to know better. Maximus gets butthurt at the High Elder, scolding him for being an idiot, and he runs into Xander. They go on a mission out in the wastes, bond a little, and Xander lays down the situation. Give him the cold fusion diode, or there will be bloodshed. They then enter a facility generating power and meet up with Thaddeus of all people. Thaddeus is running a bottling plant to gather a few caps, and he has both unmutated and mutated children working for him. Xander splits the kids into ghoul and smooth-skin groups, and prepares to execute the ghoulified children. Maximus then smashes his head in with a super sledge to stop Xander from killing the children. I know that the Brotherhood in the East has a history of disliking ghouls. This is mentioned briefly in Fallout 3 and more extensively in Fallout 4. However, murdering non-feral ghouls is just damn. As far as I remember, and it has been a while since I've played Fallout 4, so correct me if I'm wrong, the Brotherhood never intentionally kills non-feral ghouls because they're just people. It's why John Hancock can go on the Prydwen in Fallout 4, and why Good Neighbor is not immediately destroyed by the Brotherhood. Now, does the Brotherhood get non-feral and feral ghouls confused? Absolutely. However, the intention is not to eradicate all non-feral ghouls. The Brotherhood is not the Enclave. Their goal is not to eradicate mutation, but to preserve and develop technology, to save humanity from itself. This was an issue with Fallout 4, but now the TV show is doubling down even harder. Murdering innocent people is insane and makes the Brotherhood's morality on par with the fucking Enclave. Suffice to say that the Brotherhood continues to slide on opposite ends of the white and black binary. Now, they are cemented as firmly evil. Great. After Xander's death, Maximus brings Thaddeus back to impersonate the now dead Xander. Thaddeus, of course, acts nothing like the confident Xander, and the only one to notice the discrepancy is Dane. Remember, the Brotherhood of Steel are a bunch of morons. This bit where Thaddeus struggles to impersonate Xander goes on for so long, and still, none of them question why Xander is suddenly acting so squeamish. I love idiot plots. Maximus then attempts to murder Quintus to stop the Brotherhood from going down the warpath. At the same time, Maximus asks Dane to steal the artifact from the Brotherhood of Steel because he fears what they may do with it. The most powerful artifact the Brotherhood of Steel has ever possessed is easily stolen by Dane because there is no one guarding it to protect it. Seems legit. The only consistent thing in this show is how stupid the Brotherhood is. At a time when everyone is pining over this thing, they leave it completely unguarded. Fucking brilliant. Maximus fails to kill Quintus, who reaffirms the Brotherhood's dedication to eradicating ghouls.
Abominations! Children! Ghouls to be exterminated.
I know.
First rule, of our order.
I guess being evil shits now is the main overarching Brotherhood dogma. Maximus runs away, finds Dane, takes the cold fusion, and leaves the Brotherhood base with Thaddeus. The Brotherhood finds out that the artifact was stolen, and instead of asking something like, I don't know, who stole it, they just start killing each other. Then a civil war ensues, and that is where we leave the Brotherhood until the cliffhanger in episode 8, where we see that Quintus is going to create his own Liberty Prime. The Brotherhood Civil War is a plotline I've been waiting for. I have been talking about this for years at this point because the concept, it's just so cool. Now that the Brotherhood has this massive presence across the US, this could be the way to bring new life into the wasteland. Bring the Brotherhood of Steel down a few pegs after being the main characters of 7 Fallout titles. Give me an Outcast versus Lions ideological battle. Tradition versus Reformation. Do we let the outside in, or do we stick to the old ways? It could have been so interesting. However, this TV show picked the stupidest possible avenue through which to explore this plotline. Instead of a conflict animated by ideological differences or understandable perspectives or deep-rooted long-term animosity, we have one that is animated by idiocy, built off the shoddy proposition that no one was guarding the vital MacGuffin, no one thought to take 2 seconds to investigate who took it, and everyone in the Brotherhood is just a-okay with murdering each other in an instant. A civil war is an event that should be treated with some gravitas. It is a uniquely traumatizing conflict, pitting brother against brother. Take the American Civil War, for example. The American Civil War is a conflict that instilled generations of trauma within the citizens of the United States. In fact, it is so traumatizing that people today are still unwilling to grapple with its historicity. This is why you see coping mechanisms like the Lost Cause, because it makes history easy, palatable, safe, whitewashed. When history is easy, it ceases to be true. The American Civil War was also a conflict that was built up over 80 years from the birth of the United States until the election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860 broke the camel's back. The Civil War did not come out of nowhere. The sheer weight of the buildup and aftermath of this conflict is why it is so fascinating. So much of American history hinges on this moment. The Civil War created ripples that continue to leave an indelible mark on the US. I'm not saying the Brotherhood Civil War has to have the same gravitas as an actual real-world conflict that killed hundreds of thousands of people, but it has to have something. Explore why the Brotherhood is divided. Show us why members choose each faction. What would motivate these people to want to kill their comrades? Give me some build-up so I can be invested. The Fallout TV show begins with these characters already pissed at each other, and they take the first opportunity they have to begin killing each other. We've skipped all of the steps to get to the end result of the Civil War, hence why it feels rushed and unsatisfying. It'd be like if the Star Wars prequels started right before Anakin betrays the Jedi, and had him say some throwaway line amounting to, I hate the Jedi, rah. I don't care about Anakin betraying the Order simply because it happened. I care about it because I saw the relationship he had with these people. I saw a good man become disillusioned with a hypocritical and flawed organization corrupted by rot and arrogance. I saw a man who only wanted to do right be failed by his mentors and taken advantage of by something much worse, ultimately turning into a monster and losing everything he sought to protect. I feel something when Obi-Wan says, "You were my brother, Anakin. I loved you," because the movies and the accompanying TV show actually put in the legwork to set up that relationship. The Fallout TV show does no such thing. It rushes into the Civil War with as much thought as a fart in the wind. I do not care where this plotline goes now. It'll probably be resolved in an unsatisfying way, much in the same fashion as the Outcast/Lions feud was resolved between Fallout 3 and 4. All of this is to say, I find the TV show's depiction of this conflict disappointing for just just how much potential it had. While we're on the Brotherhood, I'm going to go through the rest of Thaddeus's and Maximus's arcs in this season. We leave these two as they are just escaping the Brotherhood in episode 4, and they don't show up again until episode 6, being entirely absent from episode 5. Thaddeus and Maximus leave the armor because it has a tracker in it, and look at the cold fusion diode. Thaddeus suggests selling it, to which Maximus says,
I told you, we'll give it to the right person. A good person.
We'll give it to the right person. Keep this in mind for later. I like this conversation that Maximus and Thaddeus have about good people. Thaddeus says that only those wealthy enough can afford to be good people, and since he's been a poor wastelander and Brotherhood member his whole life, he's never seen a good person. This, hilariously, implies that no one in the Brotherhood is a good person. Again, just reinforcing how evil the Brotherhood has become. Maximus responds by saying he did meet good people in Shady Sands before it was nuked. I find this interesting because Thaddeus himself is from the Boneyard, which is, or was, an integral part of the NCR. Thaddeus mentions that he was from the shithole side of the city apparently, but I find it odd that there would be this much discrepancy between two core states of the NCR. Besides that, I do enjoy this conversation. It tackles the idea of what it means to be good. Is it something innate to us, or is it something born of convenience? Are we only good because we are in such abundance, compared to the wasteland being closer to the state of nature? After this conversation, dog meat happens by Thaddeus and Maximus. I do not want to get into nitpicks right now, but the whole chain of events that leads Maximus to finding the ghoul is complete plot contrivance. I'll get more into it later, but for now, Maximus and the ghoul reunite. I had to go searching through the first season to see where these fools were in the same scenes together. Besides the season finale, where Maximus is unconscious, the only time these two genuinely meet is when the ghoul kicks Maximus's ass in power armor. After over 10 hours, these two finally meet up again. You might think that Maximus and the ghoul would have some animosity towards each other. They both fought each other, the ghoul murdered Maximus's compatriots, and I'm sure Lucy told Maximus all the shit the ghoul did to her when they traveled together. The ghoul used Lucy for anglerfish bait, sliced off her finger, and sold her to these dudes for more anti-feral serum. Her finger is visibly not the right color when Maximus and Lucy are together, so I'm sure the socially awkward Maximus would ask her about it. At the very least, he would probably ask where the ghoul is when he meets her under the bridge, which would then launch Lucy into an explanation as to all the evil shit the ghoul did. If you really want to be charitable to the TV show and assume somehow Maximus knows nothing about the ghoul's travels with Lucy, then at the very least he should know the legend of the cruel and feared bounty hunter. Thus, you would think Maximus would have some apprehension towards traveling with the ghoul. Hell, Maximus would probably have a few choice words for him, and they move on like nothing happened. Did I miss a scene? Please, show me them talking for a bit before they start walking together. Have some sort of character dynamic here, a progression from where they last left off. But no, we gotta move the chess pieces into place. No time for such nonsense as character work. Get back to the plot, right? The ghoul quickly discerns that Maximus has the cold fusion diode because he's holding it out in the open in his hand. Why, dude? Why? Why is this uber important artifact being carried around like a damn bag of shit? Maximus, you cannot be that dumb to openly carry an item that everyone in the world is after. Stop having idiocy drive the plot. It's just aggravating and poorly written. Maximus is not an Intelligence 1 character. He is at least of average intelligence based on how he is depicted in the TV show. He should know better than this. The ghoul points a gun at Maximus, and Maximus explains that the diode is meant for Lucy, because she is a good person. The ghoul then holsters his gun. Next time we see the crew, they bust into a storehouse. They pick up some weapons, and then Thaddeus tries to have a ghoul-on-ghoul conversation. The ghoul looks at him suspiciously, and Thaddeus asks him some questions about ghoulification. Thaddeus also has an extra mouth growing from his clavicle. Clearly, Thaddeus is not becoming a ghoul, but is turning into some other monstrosity. Possibly a centaur or something real cool like a floater. I appreciate this change because it explains why Thaddeus has healing powers in Season 1, and I am now interested to see what he ends up becoming. While it does not fix every issue with the TV's depiction of ghouls, it is a nice touch. Maximus asks the ghoul why he is helping them. The ghoul replies that this is a transaction, and that in order to save a good person, Lucy, Maximus is going to have to give the cold fusion to a really bad person. Maximus, with like seconds of thought, says,
You always end up back where you started.
Before handing the cold fusion to the ghoul. Maximus risked his life stealing this from the Brotherhood. He betrayed his brothers because he feared what they might do with infinite power. He took responsibility for this artifact because he knew it could not go to the wrong person. And in the span of 2 seconds, he gives it to a man he has every reason to distrust. Are you serious? This little deal that Maximus and the ghoul make does not even guarantee that Maximus will reach Lucy. This guy hands the ghoul the most powerful piece of technology ever created for equipping him with a set of power armor, something he could have just done himself if he bothered to look in this storage shed. There is no indication that this loot house is something that the ghoul knew about before the three of them went there.
Hello, darling.
So the ghoul isn't offering Maximus anything with this transaction besides the vague promise that they'll take on the Deathclaws together. Oh, yeah, there's a bunch of Deathclaws in New Vegas now. Hank most likely unleashed them as he crawled into the Enclave facility beneath the city. I'll get into it later, don't worry. But now that the ghoul has the cold fusion diode, he doesn't have any reason to keep Maximus alive during the confrontation with the Deathclaws. If anything, it becomes more likely that the ghoul would use the power armor to Maximus as a distraction to get into the Lucky 38 and then leave him for dead. This means that Maximus effectively bargained everything so he could fight Deathclaws and nearly get himself killed. Yes, I am using hindsight bias, but having no insurance policy is just a plain bad bet that anyone with a pulse would be able to recognize as such. I find it disappointing that a potentially interesting character moment for Maximus as this sort of shepherd of the cold fusion diode is just tossed away. What if betraying the Brotherhood for the diode weighs on Maximus? Sure, most people in the Brotherhood treated him terribly, but he was still indoctrinated by their system from a very young age. He also learned from Thaddeus that not everyone who bullied him is a horrible, irredeemable monster. Maximus directly caused the deaths of hundreds of Brotherhood members, and it never has any effect on him. He never grapples with that fact, and it just feels off. One doesn't just break away from years of indoctrination in the span of a few weeks. It almost feels like Maximus never had any loyalty to the Brotherhood, despite being a member for almost 2 decades, and this is an issue that Season 1 shares too. This season does have a disillusionment arc for Maximus, which I think is great. They show how he slowly starts to believe the Brotherhood aren't the best choice for the Wasteland, and this climaxes with his murder of Xander. However, the second half of the season drops that shit like it's hot. Maximus's identity as a Brotherhood member has no bearing on his journey past episode 4. There's no conclusion or falling action to the arc, and it would be so simple to have one. We have the answer right here. Thaddeus. Have Maximus express guilt at the deaths of his brothers to Thaddeus. And then Thaddeus, being a mutant, the thing that the Brotherhood hates above all else, could tell him that he did what had to be done. The Brotherhood have lost their way and cannot be allowed to hold the cold fusion. Maybe Thaddeus could tell a story about how some Brotherhood soldiers beat him to a pulp simply for being a mutant to really hammer that point home. Then you have Maximus finally apologize for the shit he did to Thaddeus in Season 1. If Maximus didn't attempt to murder Thaddeus, he would still be human, to which Thaddeus could accept his apology. That's the moment that Maximus, the sword of the Brotherhood, dies, and he turns a new leaf as this protector of the diode. Maximus's arc does not have to be just like this, but do something with him as a continuation of Season 1 and earlier in Season 2, and do not regress his character by having him throw away the diode to the worst imaginable character for a deal that grants him effectively nothing. All around, a terrible moment for Maximus's character. After donning the NCR power armor, which looks Mighty cool, might I add. Maximus and the boys Aura farm on Freeside, and people are evidently excited by the sight of the NCR. Their legacy remains a potent force. I enjoy the scene where Maximus looks at a kid who has a resemblance to his younger self. Maximus can be a symbol that inspires, much in the same way the Brotherhood did for him when he was younger. Unlike the Brotherhood, Maximus can be a force for good. The boys roll up on the gate to the strip and Thaddeus's arm falls off. Pretty typical event, if I do say so myself.
Dude, maybe you should hang back this time, Thaddeus.
You sure?
Your arm fell off.
I love this line from Maximus. It's just kind of funny. Thaddeus is remarkably calm for somebody whose arm just fell off their shoulder. Me personally, I would be freaking out. I like having both my arms, but Thaddeus is apparently built different. Maximus and the ghoul leave Thaddeus to sort out his whole arm situation. Once the ghoul and Maximus make it to the strip, they begin the battle with the Deathclaws. The ghoul immediately leaves Maximus to go to the Lucky 38. Maximus is in a 1v1 with a Deathclaw, and it pins him to a car. Then it turns its attention to the ghoul. As opposed to killing the ghoul in 0.2 seconds like the Deathclaws do in the games, this one slowly walks up to the ghoul and tanks shots from the ghoul's Gauss rifle. Naturally, after being visibly hurt by its opponent, the Deathclaw chooses to continue its slow saunter up to the ghoul. This gives Maximus the chance to decapitate the Deathclaw. Besides the ridiculous plot armor, hell yeah, that's pretty badass. The ghoul gives Maximus the respect gesture before opening the Lucky 38. A few Deathclaws appear a distance away, and Maximus goes off to fight them, leaving the ghoul to enter the 38 alone. I'm not sure why Maximus wouldn't also go into the Lucky 38 with the ghoul at this moment. At this point, Maximus has no confirmation that the ghoul is actually bringing him to Lucy. He's taking the ghoul at his word, so I would think Maximus would want some confirmation that Lucy is there before he risks neck and limb to defeat the Deathclaws. Why would he willingly be a pawn in the ghoul's game for nothing in return? The ghoul isn't helping him in the fight. It's not like Freeside is in danger or postponing the battle with the Deathclaws would hurt someone. They can't break through the Lucky 38's doors or else they would have already been torn down like the other casinos. Maximus bet everything on seeing Lucy, gave the ghoul the artifact, and he's not going to take the first chance he has to confirm that Lucy is even there. Obviously, that is so we can get the ghoul and Mr. House together alone, but the TV show does not move the chess pieces naturally to get that scene to play out. Logically, Maximus would have followed the ghoul into the Lucky 38, protected him from the Deathclaws as the ghoul shut the door and searched for Lucy. Finding Lucy has been Maximus's sole motivation since he left the Brotherhood. But whatever, Maximus stays behind to do battle with the Jackson's chameleons. He does some damage to this Deathclaw before getting launched back into Freeside, endangering the lives of every citizen there. Maybe you should have gone into the Lucky 38, eh? The Deathclaws enter Freeside, and apparently the Freeside citizens are too stupid to run away immediately. As soon as that gate is busted open, I am running my ass out to Buelden. No questions asked. After the civilians finally run, Maximus goes on what I can only describe as a generational run. This dude is tearing the Deathclaws up limb from limb, blowing them to pieces. He kills numerous Deathclaws, and I don't have any notes for this part. I enjoyed seeing Maximus finally stand on business. I don't know how we went from him trading away the Wasteland's future in the previous episode to him sacrificing himself for the future of Freeside in the strip, but I'm all for it. If anything, I just wish there was some tangible growth for Maximus, a reason why he would become this badass and hero after definitively not being one for the rest of the series. Furthermore, I wish there was some setup for this display of sheer badassery we see here. Maximus does not win very many fights in Season 1. In fact, he's a pretty terrible combatant. We do see him go on missions in power armor at the beginning of Season 2, but only against low-level feral ghouls. How does the guy who lost to 2 people without power armor while in power armor now face off against 7 Deathclaws and live? Maximus's battle here is a payoff without a setup. While I enjoy it for what it is, the potential was here for so much more. A defining moment of character growth where the selfish and capable Maximus of Season 1 becomes a selfless hero of the wastes. Instead, it is a moment of hype and aura, and that's about it. Fallout TV show, you do not have to be allergic to character work. You have the conclusion. Put in the effort to set it up, and boom. Maximus is a good character. The only thing about this scene that I do not like is when the people of Freeside are betting on the outcome. Are we so idiotic and selfish that we would rather bet on the outcome than help Maximus? They correctly state that if Maximus fails here, they will all die, yet they continue to bet. It makes the people of Freeside, save Shotgun Jeff here, seem like a bunch of moronic assholes. Evidently not getting help from the Freeside residents, Maximus stands in the street with a roulette table as a shield and a pole cue as a spear. The Deathclaws are coming, and all hope seems lost before a bullet rips through the Deathclaw's skull. The camera pans to reveal the NCR. The fuck? Wait. Well, what? I thought they were dead.
You're supposed to be dead! Am I not?
Whoa, deja vu. Okay, so where did these fools come from? The TV show explains this battalion away with this line in episode 3.
When Shady Sands fell, we had a battalion out east. We could still get to them.
There's a battalion out east. If I may, where the hell have they been for the past 20 years? The ghoul even points this out by saying that
Shady Sands. You do know that was over 20 years ago, right?
this is funny on multiple levels. First, it proves that the first season of the TV show did indeed set the date for the nuking of Shady Sands in 2277. To anyone who tried to argue that the fall of Shady Sands was some nebulous date in the 2280s, it's just factually incorrect. I'm sorry. Second, the ghoul saying the bombing of Shady Sands was over 2 decades ago doesn't make sense with the previously established date of 2277. The TV show takes place in 2296. 2296 minus 2277 is 19, which is not over 2 decades. This certainly means that the retconned date for the nuking, 2283, is impossible, because that would only be 13 years ago. It's okay to mess up a date in the lore of Fallout. There is so much lore that is bound to happen. However, when people point out that you messed up the lore, especially because Shady Sands is immensely important, you should probably do your due diligence to keep things straight in the future. Evidently, the Fallout TV show does not do that. Let's say that everything about this exchange is logically constructed. The ghoul says that Shady Sands fell 13 years ago, and the first season actually intended to put the date at that time, 2283. I do not believe that the Eastern Battalion would allow the NCR to get pummeled in the West for over a decade and do nothing about it. The TV show tries to say that they've been cut off, but how? The NCR has radio communication. Even if the communication somehow fell through, a lack of communication in of itself would be enough probable cause to go back and check things out. One might think that the Legion would be the reason the NCR battalion cannot go back west, but that's actually not the case. This NCR trooper states,
Up here it's just us. We've been cut off from reinforcements for more than a decade. The Legion has us boxed in.
The Legion has us boxed in, meaning these 2 soldiers. The dialogue would imply that the Eastern Battalion does not know that any NCR remains on the West, which is why they have not yet come back, which is stupid. The nuking of Shady Sands would not collapse the entire NCR nation. The NCR is massive. It's a full-on state made of hundreds of communities. Even with their capital gone, the NCR would still be a force to be reckoned with in California. And this Eastern Battalion would want to support a vulnerable NCR against the resurgent Brotherhood and Caesar's Legion. Also, why is there a battalion of NCR deep in Legion territory? While we do see such infiltration from the Legion, the NCR does not operate deep within Arizona or Colorado, or wherever this nebulous Eastern Battalion is. So why? What did the NCR hope to gain by stranding an army out in Legion territory? To summarize the NCR as depicted by the TV show, It goes like this. The NCR decides before 2277, despite the fact that they have not yet defeated Caesar's legion, to send a battalion east of the Mojave. In 2277, Hank nukes Shady Sands. Somehow, after losing only one city, the NCR is left in disarray. The Eastern Battalion, having lost communication with the West, decides to park their ass in the East for reasons. The Brotherhood, which up until now is languishing in bunkers, slowly dying, emerges immediately, as shown by Maximus's flashbacks, to become the most dominant power in the Wastes. 19 years pass by, and the Western NCR is whittled down to Lee Moldaver's group and a few disparate guerrilla fighters. The Eastern Battalion is still just chilling in the East. Then, this trooper, somehow, off-screen, contacts the Eastern Battalion, they instantly teleport to Freeside and start tearing ass and taking names. Am I reading this correctly? This is a farce, built on the most shoddy, illogical, brain-melting chain of events. I remember when this series dealt with declining factions in interesting and logical ways. The Brotherhood failed because of their dogma, the Enclave being annihilated and their members integrating into new societies, still finding a way to do some good despite an evil past. Now, the Fallout lore is insanity. It doesn't feel real. It feels like somebody artificially moving pieces for hype moments in aura. The NCR gets it the worst. The writers pulled this Eastern Battalion straight out their ass. In no universe would this chain of events happen. The only reason it does happen this way is so that this NCR veteran ranger can be perched right here with an anti-material rifle to play on our nostalgia for New Vegas. But that's just it. It's only for the nostalgia bait. This show doesn't care to actually honor New Vegas or what it tried to say with this faction. The NCR is a key to jangle in front of our faces. I do not care for key jangling. I just want a good continuation from where Fallout New Vegas left off, and this is not it. However, I am glad that they did not kill off the NCR entirely, because they are my favorite faction, so that's a plus, I guess. Going back to Maximus, he gets saved by the biggest Deus Ex Machina I have ever seen. The NCR decides to take care of the Death Claws. Maximus enters the strip. Wait. Did he just walk past Deathclaws? We've seen the scene before that the Deathclaws are still coming from Vegas. Where did they go? Whatever. Maximus is Deathclaw Jesus, and he finds Lucy on the strip. After a season apart, they reunite and hug. They go up to the Lucky 38 and see the armies of Caesar's Legion approaching. Lucy says, "I could have prevented this." How exactly? She's referring to the black boxes here, but how? The black boxes stop people from fighting each other, but the Legion isn't gonna let you just put them on their necks without a fight. No matter what, there will be violence. Maximus, in response, says, "Welcome to the wasteland," and they hold hands. I think it's safe to say that Maximus has improved this season compared to last, although this is not saying much. My greatest issue with Maximus this time around is that the beginning of the season has the makings of an interesting character arc that proceeds to be dropped as soon as Maximus leaves the Brotherhood. This is not to say that he doesn't get any good moments post-Brotherhood, but the internal conflicts that drove his actions during the Brotherhood era cease to inform his character. The worst moment for his character is when he gives the ghoul cold fusion without a thought. Bar none. This device and his theft of it caused so many to suffer and die in the Brotherhood. Maximus made that choice because he knew a bad person could not get that device, and then he proceeded to trade it away because boners. Frustrating is how I would describe Maximus, a well of potential that had but a spoonful of water taken from it. As for Thaddeus, who this section was also about technically, he gets nothing to do. The story is more focused on what he is, or rather, what he is becoming, than engaging with him as a character. How does he feel about his mutation? Does he hold any grudge towards Maximus for causing it? Why does Thaddeus follow Maximus into the Deathclaw trap? What does he want as a character? Thaddeus and Maximus, this dynamic, is something that could have been explored and developed, and while there was a little of that by the campfire, the TV show is, again, more interested in moving the plot pieces to where they need to go. Overall, both of these characters fail to be engrossing. At its best, the Fallout TV show is able to set up interesting things or have a nice conclusion to something that isn't set up, if that makes sense. At its worst, this season actively damages the progression of these characters. A mixed bag, but I am glad that Maximus is better this season. That has to be recognized. Moving on from Maximus, I want to tackle the big house in the room. Robert Edwin House, the man at the center of it all. Robert House is one of the first major characters we see in this season. We see Mr. House on the TV screen talking about Robco's purpose. These people in the bar are evidently not happy with Robert House, questioning the political power he holds. They say they didn't vote for him, so why should he have such power? A strange man sitting in a booth with a nice suit on says that they did indeed vote for Robert House, as
every dollar spent is a vote cast.
I get the idea behind this line, but at the same time, just no. If you're operating under monopolistic conditions, which the Fallout universe very much is, then buying from a company isn't throwing your support behind them, so much as it is you being forced to support them. If one can only go to a single location for bread, then is buying that bread a vote of support or sheer necessity? Also, a line like this in a show produced by Amazon is the sheerest irony, especially when this company is going to put ad after ad on this godforsaken show. Fuck you, Amazon. If I have to watch one more ad about GLP-1s, I'm going to commit sewer slide. In game, of course. Anyway, hearing a monopolistic corporation like Amazon say every dollar is a vote spent is hilarious. With that sentence, this man, who is obviously Robert House, attracts the ire of these working stiffs. They have a conversation, and House says obsolescence while looking at this construction guy. This confused me at first because why the hell would a man be obsolete? But this is explained shortly. Because he's acting like a condescending ass, House is pulled outside by these gentlemen. He asks to be punched.
Hit me in the mouth. I think I'd enjoy it.
Okay, weird. He then offers these dudes $31 million to test out this little device. The guy gets mad at House, and House responds by forcing the black box on his neck. We then see the brain-computer interface chip in full action. The man obeys House's orders. He probably kills one of his buddies and knocks out the other. Then the construction man turns on House. Mr. House fiddles with the dial, and his head explodes. Already, there is a lot to unpack here. Mr. House, as played by Justin Theroux, is not the same character as Mr. House from Fallout New Vegas. He lacks any of the charisma that permeated House's earlier incarnation, that dominating personality, that cool, collected nature. This House is weird. There's something sniveling about him, a sadism, a quirkiness that's just not there in the game. I have no doubt that House personally ordered some fucked up projects for Robco, but I don't believe that he would personally do something this fucked up. House, a billionaire, puts himself in harm's way and kills a man in broad daylight because he wants to? This man risked his reputation for an experiment that could have been done behind closed doors and conducted by someone else. House works through people. We see this throughout New Vegas. In this scene, Robert House is immensely stupid, sadistic, and weird. Hell, he smiles as he takes a chunk of the man's skull and looks at his fine creation. However, a rocky start does not define a character. Let's continue. Next time we see House, it's in episode 3. He's in a bathroom waiting for Cooper. Seems normal. He begins by saying, "You getting any awards tonight?"
You getting any awards tonight?
I'm not sure why Justin Theroux pronounces his W's like that. He does it the entire season. In-game, House never spoke like that.
Our terms were clear. Now that you have the chip in your possession, any attempt to renegotiate payment would be tantamount to blackmail.
So I don't know what possessed the actor or director to make that change. Did we want to make House seem even more odd than he already was? This conversation between Cooper and House doesn't amount to much. Cooper doesn't know that this is House, so Mr. House comes off like an insane person who knows a little bit too much about Cooper. Look at this guy. What's he on? Looking like me after I've greened out. After this, we see Mr. House again in episode 5. Cooper and Lee Moldaver have taken it upon themselves to stop the transaction of cold fusion to Mr. House. Moldaver fears that if Mr. House gains cold fusion, Vault-Tec will get bombs. At this point, neither of them are aware of the Enclave's role in everything. Cooper reaches Las Vegas, and fake Mr. House escorts him to the real big man. This is the moment where it is revealed that Mr. House has had a body double. But one can intuit that Justin Theroux was House from episode 1. It's not really a twist. I like that House's body double looks nothing like him. Fake House says that he's been the big man's body double for a decade. I guess people a decade ago didn't care that Mr. House suddenly looked completely different. Anyway, this is the conversation where Mr. House explains everything to Cooper. House was actively spying on Cooper during his time in Alaska. When Cooper was in Alaska, he saw the deployment of Deathclaws, which we later learn are from the Enclave.
And to your wife.
Stop saying your W's like that, dude. House then goes on to say that his acquisition of cold fusion from Vault-Tec will allow him to stay alive indefinitely in a roboticized form to protect Vegas. Cooper states that his wife, Barbara, will drop the bombs, and House responds that it is unclear. House says that Vault-Tec would also definitely not drop the bombs. The reason House is unsure about Barbara is that she isn't like the rest of Vault-Tec. Furthermore, House wished to calculate the end of the world. The date that the data coalesced for his calculation was on April 14th, 2065 at 5:17 a.m., which just so happens to be Barbara's daughter's birthday. House uses this as evidence that Cooper's family is intertwined with the end of the world, and that's just complete bullshit. Cooper's daughter being born on the date that House's data coalesced means nothing. This is a textbook example of correlation does not always imply causation. Just because I took a shit when 9/11 happened doesn't mean that my shit caused 9/11. House, the self-proclaimed mathematician, should know better and would logically never say this. Coincidences do happen. After this, House states that Cooper was not meant to come to Vegas, but the fact he did jumped the date of the end of the world forward by a month. So, for some reason, according to House, the end of the world and Cooper's family are linked. Then Mr. House says that someone else might be at the table. House asks Cooper, "What if I'm not the House? What if somebody else is?" Cooper says, "What if you're just a fucking lunatic?" Then House gets butthurt and Cooper leaves distraught. What? Is House a child? I've seen some people say that this is how House acts in the game because there are some lines of dialogue where he becomes enraged at the player. However, that leaves out a lot of context. House only shouts at the player when they refuse to give him the platinum chip, something that ruins centuries of preparations, or when they open his pod up in the basement. Both of these events are extraordinary circumstances. For the rest of the game, House is fairly even-keeled with the player, even when the player is a moron to him or somewhat insubordinate. This childish outburst is unbecoming of the character. I do not appreciate how House is framed here. He puts on that weird headset thing just to look that much more insane as he screams at Cooper. Again, this just isn't the calculated, intelligent, well-spoken House of the video game. On the bright side, this scene does fix an issue I had with the first season. House does not desire the end of the world, and, like in the game, is taking precautions to save Vegas. This puts him much more in line with what he says in Fallout New Vegas. The last thing I want to say about this scene is that I think we've now placed Cooper's hand into too many cookie jars. What I mean by that is that this random, pre-war actor is now so influential that his actions directly influence the end of the world. He sees the deepest, most secret meetings. He hears the purpose of the vaults, meets Mr. House, meets the President of the United States of America. This dude is everywhere. The issue is that this shrinks the scope of the Fallout mythos pre-war. Anything happens pre-war, well, Cooper was probably there doing some shenanigans. Cooper's involvement definitely reads like a writer inserting their OC into every bit of established lore. Robert House, The Enclave, Retcon, Big MT, Vault-Tec, Somehow, someway, Cooper has a connection to all of them. At some point, it feels artificial and makes the world feel shallow, like there aren't that many moving pieces. Continuing with House, we see him again in the finale. We finally get to see what he wanted to do with cold fusion and why he placed that weird headset on. And it was to create an AI version of himself. Ugh, fuck me, dude. Okay. One of the things about New Vegas that is so fascinating is that none of the 4 ending options are good. Each of them have their own ups and downs. Robert House is no exception. Mr. House is an exceptional man. He is undeniably intelligent and manipulative. He knows how to get the pieces where he wants them. Proof of this lies on how he handles the NCR and Legion. He expertly positions the NCR where they are forced to protect Vegas from Caesar's Legion and Raider groups. Nominally, the NCR controls the outlying region, but they don't get anything out of it. Their quote-unquote control of the area leaves them overstretched and vulnerable. House engineered it this way because he knew that the NCR had the power to oust him, but when left in a bad spot, they needed him. Thus, the NCR is held in a bad holding pattern of defending Vegas and filling up the pockets of House while being unable to get him out of the picture. From House's history, it's clear he has a vision and knows how to execute it. When the courier aids him, House talks a big game of igniting the R&D sectors and going into space to flee the scorched earth. And because he is such an effective leader, the player has a reason to believe that he might be able to achieve his vision. However, the player has to take House at his word, and House's history isn't spotless. For example, he gives control of the casinos to 3 tribes, all of whom secretly hate him and want him out of the picture. House is aware of this, but it still doesn't seem like a good bet. House is also ruthless. He ends the Brotherhood, kills the kings of Freeside, and cares only for Vegas. No one else matters. House is also only one man. He is an autocrat, and there is no room for any other vision beside his own. Another issue with him being only one man is that House is immortal. He has technology that can prolong his life, but not indefinitely. We are also shown that that technology is not always perfect, like when he went into a coma. House's fallibility as a human was a key piece to his pitch. Each faction in the Wasteland gives the player a pitch of sorts, a reason to support them over the others. House offers a strong vision as his pitch, but an implied drawback is his own mortality. The TV show throws that away. House can now live forever as an AI. Yay. This also makes our choice to kill or spare House functionally meaningless. House has a throwaway line about it.
Over the years, my body became something of a target for wandering travelers with something to prove. I have been poisoned, shot, bludgeoned with a crowbar.
Doesn't matter that the courier killed him though. AI can perfectly match the intelligence and personality of House, and it'll never die because cold fusion is limitless power. What a butt-fucking confounding decision that takes away from the nuance of House's ending, and nullifies a pivotal moment of New Vegas. The TV show is a big fan of that latter half, by the way. They love nullifying New Vegas entirely. Tell me, what ending is canon? It was a trick question. There is no way to tell based on the TV show. New Vegas is destroyed because of the death clause, so we don't know who's in control of the strip. The NCR is gone due to an event that happened before New Vegas even took place. Hoover Dam isn't mentioned a single time in a Fallout title taking place in the Mojave. Caesar's Legion is fucking around killing each other and don't appear to be in a great spot. Nothing that occurs in Fallout New Vegas has any bearing on the TV show, and nuh-uh. When one is making a continuation of a story, the previous chapter in that story should influence the present chapter. Remember in Fallout 2, how people talk about the Vault Dweller of the first game with almost mythic-like reverence? In Fallout 2, we know the Vault Dweller stopped the Master. We know that they met the Brotherhood. We know that they saved Tandy from the Raiders. We know they eventually settled down in Arroyo. And we know that the Vault Dweller walked all the way to Texas so he could be part of the hit game Fallout Brotherhood of Steel. Fallout 2 takes place just north of Fallout 1, so it makes sense that such an important figure like the Vault Dweller would have an immense impact on that region. Additionally, you want someone who played Fallout 1 to feel like their choices actually mattered. It makes the player feel like the main character, and makes those choices have weight. The Fallout TV show, which, mind you, takes place barely 15 years after Fallout New Vegas, has no continuity with New Vegas. Nothing in New Vegas matters. Every choice you make, every faction you ally with, who you keep alive, it doesn't matter. In the end, everyone dies to Deathclaws, someone else nukes the NCR, and Hoover Dam doesn't even matter. As someone who loves New Vegas, that is immensely frustrating. The TV show does an absolute disservice to the effort put into all the different ending cards of that game, and retroactively makes playing New Vegas worse. Why should I care about Hoover Dam when the Wasteland doesn't? Why should I care about who gets Vegas when, in the end, everyone dies to Deathclaws, pulled out of the writers' asses? I think I understand what the writers wanted. They wanted there to be no definitive canon to New Vegas because people would get mad that their ending wasn't picked. As someone who has played New Vegas many a times, I don't care what is canon as long as it is something. Picking none of the above is antithetical to the idea of an RPG. Choices should matter. With this writing decision, the TV show made New Vegas and its story effectively pointless. Whatever, let's finish off Mr. House. The now AI Mr. House negotiates with Cooper, who points a Gauss rifle at the Cold Fusion. Cooper asks old Bob where his family is at in exchange for leaving House's batteries on. House agrees to this proposition.
But in order to show you the way,
dude, if you don't stop pronouncing your W's like that, I'm going to have an aneurysm. House brings Cooper to his family's cryopods. Cooper figures out that they're in Colorado. House throws a fit because Cooper doesn't give a shit about the Enclave threat, and then we see him in the final scene. You know, I wonder why Mr. House didn't try to hunt the Enclave down in his ending of New Vegas. If it was, as he describes, the greatest threat to the Wastes, why didn't he do anything about it when he had an upgraded Securitron army? It's almost like the Enclave was fucking dead. Alright, whatever, I can't keep harping on that. House in the TV show is shit. In Fallout New Vegas, House was an interesting, morally great character. I was inclined to hate him because he was a billionaire scumbag, but going beneath the surface was a man who did everything in service of what he saw as the best future for humanity. That is not the case for this House. He develops a device to make man into machine. He actively desires to make people mindless slaves.
You know, Robert House wanted to turn human beings into machines. Erase their memories. Make them suggestible enough to follow his orders. You know, Robert, he was a bit of a robot himself.
He kills people and hasn't the slightest sense of remorse about it. He's creepy, weird, sniveling, easily worked up into a rage, and lacks any charisma. House opposes the Enclave, but I have no doubt that he would create the same slave army. It's why he developed the technology to begin with, and called that working stiff in episode 1 obsolete. House is no better than Hank in this regard. Mr. House was never a good person, but he was also not evil. The TV show, incapable of any nuance, just makes him evil and crazy. Suffice it to say, this is a piss-poor adaptation of an immensely engrossing character. This extends to the acting or directing. I have always maintained that the actors in the TV show do a great job. Hank McClane, my least favorite character, has an amazing actor. Kyle MacLachlan sells the emotional beats even when the writing cannot. The same goes for Maximus's actor. I didn't very much like his character in season 1, but the actor, Aaron Moten, did a fine job. Mr. House is not the same. The blame is either on Justin Theroux or the director Frederick E. O. Toy or the other two. I wouldn't say the acting is bad necessarily, but it's just not Mr. House. I do not envy having to emulate an already existing character, especially one voiced by the legend himself, Rene Auberjonois. However, it can be done. I keep mentioning Star Wars, but Ewan McGregor does an excellent job portraying a younger Alec Guinness, while still imprinting his own style on the character. While difficult, it is possible. Mr. House in the TV show just acts too different. The quivering of the lips, the shouting, the stupid W pronunciation, it's just off. Even the damn hairlines are off. If given proper directing and better writing, I think Thoreau could have made for an alright house, but this sadly is just not it. Seeing as we went over the NCR and House, it is only right that we go over Caesar's Legion. The Legion is dumb. They are in a civil war, right next to each other, so close that they could probably speak to one another. Caesar died, apparently recently, and the dispute is over who should become the next Caesar. However, Edward Sallow, the old Caesar, has a note with his preferred choice. Oh, great. The conflict is solved. But no, they still fight. Apparently both sides are fearful that their man won't be on that note, but given the faction is named Caesar's Legion, and Edward Sallow was so impactful, wouldn't you want to honor his legacy? So what if it's not your guy? By not looking at that note, you are disrespecting the legacy of the great Caesar. Succession disputes usually occur when there is no clear successor, but Caesar chose someone. Also, it should have been obvious who Caesar's successor would have been without the note. Caesar, a man who's extensively read history, should have been keenly aware of the dangers of succession. Think of the War of the Five Emperors, or the Four Emperors, or the Six Emperors, or really just the entirety of the 3rd century AD. In Fallout New Vegas, Caesar has a clear successor in Linnaeus. Why would he change that? In fact, where is Linnaeus? Why isn't he named at all? It doesn't matter. The Civil War is built off very shoddy foundations, to say the least. Lucy gets dragged into the Legion's headquarters and sees Macaulay Culkin? Hell yeah, mon boy. What's he doing here? Alright, that gets a point from me. Love to see my boy. And he's so goofy here. I kind of love it, even though it's kind of dumb. Lucy eventually gets crucified for admitting that she isn't a virgin. I don't know, man. I didn't write this TV show. The ghoul saves her, dupes the Legion, blows them up, and they start killing each other like a bunch of morons. The Legion is absent for around 5 episodes before we see Macaulay Culkin drag Edward Sallow's skeleton into a tent. In his pocket is the note. It says, "I am Caesar. I am the Legion. It ends with me." Ugh. My god, can any of these factions be spared from this godforsaken TV show? In no uncertain terms, would Edward Sallow write that shit down? Edward sees himself as an instrument of history, a great conqueror who will turn the backwards tribes of the wasteland into a genuine empire that will bring order to the wastes. Never, for a second, does he wish for the Legion to end with him. Rome lasted 1,000 years, and 1,000 more in the East. That is the legacy he sought to emulate and build himself.
My conquest of the Mojave will be a glorious triumph, marking the transition of the Legion from a basically nomadic tribe to a genuine empire. Just as my namesake campaigned in Gaul before he crossed the Rubicon, so have I campaigned and will cross the Colorado.
That note borders on character assassination for the man Edward Sallow. No, it is a character assassination. He conquered 86 tribes, not for fun, not for glory, but because he saw it as necessary. He annihilated cultures, identities, and people to build a society that would last. While it is true the Legion would likely have collapsed after his death, I do not believe that Caesar saw it that way. But no, apparently Caesar just wanted to commit atrocities for memes and then let it all blow away the second he died. Fuck off. Macaulay Culkin, initially shaken, kills the guy next to him, eats the note, and becomes the new Caesar, because that's how that would work. What? Why would they all go from killing each other to proclaiming Macaulay Culkin Caesar just because he put the stupid crown on? Oh yeah, they're dumb apes. They then decide immediately to march on Vegas instead of rebuilding themselves after days of attacking each other. Oh my god, guys. I can't do this anymore. Then, they teleport to Vegas like the NCR at the end of the finale. I don't know what to say about these guys. I just don't. Everything about the Legion is so dumb, and I hate how they are portrayed. They are evil, that's it. In comparison, the NCR, oh, they're just completely good. That's it.
One side is murdering people, enslaving them, crucifying them, and the other side is just vaguely problematic.
New Vegas, the video game, went beyond such binaries. The NCR was an imperialistic, aggressive, bloated, corrupt force. Caesar's Legion was a ruthless, cruel, but orderly and organized faction. They did not hold the weaknesses of the NCR. Are the NCR and Legion of Fallout New Vegas on equal planes of morality? No, but they are gray. The TV show, like everything else, throws that nuance away. The Legion are just dumb meatheads. Their once great leader, Edward Sallow, was actually just a douchebag with no vision. I'm done. I can't talk about these guys anymore. Just no, what a disgrace. Before I end this diatribe, I'm just going to go over a few miscellaneous notes I had. Some of the fight scenes in this season are really bad, filled to the brim with plot armor, and sometimes just completely illogical. You're telling me the ghoul, a 200-year-old battle-hardened god of the wastes, is gonna get bested by a drugged Lucy. Also, sometimes the fight scenes rely a little bit too much on shaky cam. The CGI of the season is inconsistent and looks bad at times. The Deathclaws had some rough moments. The Pridwin was obviously green screened, and the Super Mutant. I mean, what the fuck? The ghoul meeting the Super Mutant is insane, and not in a good way. Lucy pushes the ghoul onto a spike, and he sits there for hours, slowly going feral. I have no clue why no one in Freeside gave a shit about this. I can imagine that someone would either help the ghoul or put a bullet in his brain to get him to shut up. I'm doubtful a ghoul could even survive this injury for so long. They aren't Viltrumites. The writers did fix ghoul healing. It only occurs under intense radiation. Good job. The Super Mutant is voiced by Ron Perlman. Absolute W. I love it. Please voice the intro and conclusion of the next game. All around, the season is a lot of setup, which in of itself is not a problem, but there isn't a climax to anything. We set up the Enclave's Phase 2, the NCR coming back, the Legion assault on New Vegas, Cooper finding his family, Lucy and Maximus working with House, the Brotherhood going down the warpath, Super Mutants fighting a war against the Enclave, and none of these get a conclusion. It's frustrating from a viewer standpoint. It's like the show is edging me. It is possible to conclude plot lines while also setting things up. There's also a lot of wasted time this season. All of Norm's interactions with Vault 31 are pointless. These characters add nothing and promptly die. Norm could have gotten to his final point in this season in about 5 minutes of screen time. Did I really need to see this guy's support group for people engaging in incest? The answer is no. Was this scene with House in the bathroom necessary? No. Was the fat guy in the store necessary? Obviously no. This season moves slower, and that's fine. However, I question how well it actually utilizes that time. Cut out these dumb moments and give me some character growth for Maximus and Thaddeus. The nuking of Shady Sands is ridiculous. There are apparently no military checkpoints leading into the city. No one is concerned that this guy is saying the same line over and over. This guy apparently has no radio on him, which would prompt an investigation when he stopped using said radio. Also, nobody questions when he disappears for a bit, because obviously Hank had to kidnap this guy to implant the black box on him. The entire thing is just ridiculous. In the pre-war, Cooper isn't sure what to do with the diode once he gets it. He goes to this amiable congresswoman fighting corruption. Cooper wants to give it to the congresswoman, but she doesn't have the assurances that she can handle it safely. Diane Welch, the congresswoman, then suggests that Cooper give it to the President of the United States. So, let me get this straight. Cooper is scared that if billionaires like Robert House and Vault-Tec have access to this device, the world will end. So he is prepared to give it to the president, who is arguably one of the most bought out people in government. If infinite corporate donations exist in the Fallout universe, which it most certainly does based on the TV show, then the president is deeply tied to the interests of the billionaire class. Cooper should know this, and if he somehow doesn't, the congresswoman definitely should. Both of them should have serious reservations about giving the president cold fusion. In the end, it doesn't matter because the president is in the Enclave, but the fact that Cooper and the congresswoman were willing to give it to him is ridiculous. Also, Clancy Brown, Big W, welcome back to Fallout. For positives, I like Barb's character way more this season. Cooper taking the downfall for his un-American activities is a pretty great moment, and I don't mind most of Cooper's pre-war activities. Also, the moment between Lucy and Hank when he brainalizes himself is impactful, despite Hank's character. A testament to the acting. Lucy is generally fine this season as well. The only thing that pissed me off about her is that she takes way too long to recognize how evil the black boxes are. I mean, there is a solid moment in the later episodes where Lucy actually considers the black boxes a good thing, and it just feels off for a character who supposedly has such a strong moral compass. The ghoul is also fine this season. His entire motivation is to find his family, which, you know, is the same as last season. I am a little frustrated with where he ends up because it's essentially the exact same place he started. At the beginning of the season, he knows where to continue the search for his family, and at the end of the season, he knows where to continue the search for his family. So there hasn't been very much actual progression in this story, but I mean, it was overall fine. Going back to the negatives, the tone is generally goofy again, and some of the characters are brain dead. There's this whole bit where this one vault dweller is unable to find his way around because Vault 32 is mirrored from Vault 33. Whoa, so crazy. Maybe turn the other direction? I already mentioned the Freesiders who are betting on the Deathclaw fight despite the fact that they will die if Maximus loses. The fat guy thinks that this disguise will actually work. Macaulay Culkin's entire character is goofy, etc. It is abundant this season, like it was last season, and it's okay to like this humor, but it's not for me. At least some of the most outrageous lines of dialogue are gone, such as, "Wanna make my cock explode?" I wish the background characters of the TV show were more like the people of Fallout 1, 2, and New Vegas. There were some colorful characters, but for the most part, the NPCs of those games were normal people trying to get by. It made them feel real, and I cared about where they ended up. I don't really care when cartoon characters are all I am surrounded by. The physical world of the TV show yet again continues the garbage one of the previous season. People are living in trash, communities are disparate, there is no societal organization, no production, no crops, no nothing. This isn't a living, breathing world, but a continuation of Bethesda's world design dating back to Fallout 3. It's a world that isn't allowed to move on from the initial stages of nuclear apocalypse. The difference between the Mojave of the TV show and the game is palpable. In the game, there are communities everywhere. Towns, factions, people. People are farming, making shit. Here in the TV show, everything is dead. Bethesda still can't let go of the aesthetic of a barely hanging on society. It reduces all the world building that took place from Fallout 1 to New Vegas back to square one. Yet again, we are in a worse place than even Fallout 1, which took place 135 years ago in lore. And those are all the final notes I had. I tried to determine which season of this show was worse, but I don't know. The first season has a focus. Everything ties back to the MacGuffin, and there is a genuine conclusion to plot lines, which is something this season lacks entirely. However, season 2 does make improvements over its freshman season. The abhorrent dialogue is gone, and characters like Maximus are better. Season 2's greatest sin is what it does to the legacy of New Vegas. At every opportunity, this season shits all over the lore and the choices of that game. If you wanted to see the Kings, well, they're dead. If you wanted to see the White Glove Society, dead. You want to see the Tops? Dead. Omertas, Fiends, Westside, Jacobstown, dead, 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 and dead. Oh, but Cheesy-san, don't you like it when Fallout lets go? The key there, my dear viewer, is how you let go. There was a cause to the Brotherhood fading away. Pulling Deathclaws out of your ass is not a valid reason for a faction to cease to exist. Also, you actually have to replace that faction with something new. The world of the TV show is dead. There is nothing left for the writers to destroy and plunder. I have no doubt that the NCR and Caesar's Legion will remain. Their branding is too iconic to give away. They won't be what they were in Fallout New Vegas, though. No, they'll be action figures to slam at each other for hype. The ideological justifications for what they do, what they see as the future of the wasteland, their flaws, their dreams, none of it matters. They are iconic. That is all that matters. House was made invincible because they just can't let go of one of their action figures. I wanted this season to understand what made Fallout tick. I wanted it to understand what the series was trying to say. I wanted them to understand the tone of the games. I wanted this season to be better. It wasn't. In an effort to recontextualize scenes, walk decisions back, and nostalgia bait, the writers ultimately made things worse. The second season of the Fallout TV show fails both on its own and in the context of the series it is a part of. If you know nothing about Fallout, then this show would be mediocre at best. It doesn't have anything to say beyond its dull satirization of modern American politics and billionaires. A few good character moments here and there do not excuse this show's utter disinterest in character work. If you're a Fallout fan, stay away from this abomination. At every turn, this show betrays the legacy of that game. In that way, this season is infinitely worse than the first, because it is a direct affront to Fallout New Vegas as a story. Ultimately, The Fallout TV show did not save this product, as I so hoped. It just failed. And honestly, there's nothing more to say about this TV show than that. I usually try to end these reviews with something poignant or deep or slightly thought-provoking, but this show doesn't deserve that treatment. Thus, I will end my review of the second season of the Fallout TV show with 2 words. It failed.